Why is it essential for us to look at other people who have used their intuitive abilities as way showers from history? This video looks at two different people with abilities that contribute to not only changing the paradigm of normal and advancing who we are becoming as we step into and activate our potential. We are in a time when we are looking at history differently than what was once mainstream. This is changing how we consider what is possible by learning about other people's experiences and abilities. From what is old helps us expand and know we are greater than we have imagined and have far greater capabilities becomes the new. And this time of transition is revealing what was once hidden. Now people are more and more comfortable with sharing who they are and their experiences with less fear of retribution, although there is still divisiveness and much work to be done. In accepting people's differences, we are also revealing what we have in common, which is a connection to the numinous or the things we identify as beyond ordinary reality. This connection helps us recognize it is normal and necessary for us, human beings, to seek other levels of consciousness and celebrate the abilities that are beyond the mainstream culture. But more than this, knowing about other people's gifts and how they were empowered to use them shows us where we can go, building and growing on, going beyond as we accelerate through this time of transition. An example is a woman I studied with in Tucson, Arizona, Shirley Nelson. Shirley worked for the Tucson Police Department finding missing children in the 1980s before photographs of everything were available. So the photos were school photos. Shirley was teaching me to read photos, that is, to detect the wellness of the person, if they were alive or deceased, where they were in the world, and the probability of locating them, which is how she used to find the missing children. This ability is still not discussed often. Shirley also used a method called Tibetan sound blowing and was a consultant for a large furniture store that is still operational today. She sat as a board of directors member because of her abilities. Shirley was definitely far beyond the cultural norm for then and now. And like now in history, often people who had abilities were definitely not mainstream, were feared or hidden because of the intensity beyond the melting pot concept to blend in for their safety and to merge with the dominant culture. In the greater Tucson area and Southwest region, the history includes the land beyond the international Mexican border, which is only 66 miles away, and also the mountains far to the east and west as part of our cultural history. Arizona is more recently settled than most states and became a state on February 14, 1912, was the last of the 48 contiguous states of the United States to be admitted to the Union. And Arizona has been a rugged landscape that was inhabited by different groups of First Nation people with different traditions. The reason we know about the next person with unusual heightened abilities is because of the unrest that was occurring prior to Arizona becoming a state, and because the original narrative tells the success of squashing the indigenous peoples. The Apaches, which are composed of a number of different groups, the First Nation people who lived in what is now Arizona, Mexico, and New Mexico, raided white settlers over 10 years in the late 1800s. The United States government was attempting forcible removal of the Apaches in 1876 to San Carlos, located in eastern Arizona. A method to incite the Apaches was the murder of an Apache prophet in 1881, which resulted in the struggle of Geronimo Victorio and Lozen, warriors of strength of their people, who battled against their people's capture to remain free from incarceration. Lozen became known in history because they were a fierce warrior. Lozen was a two-spirit, which is a more recently adapted umbrella term used by some indigenous North Americans, First Nation people, to describe Native people in their communities who fulfill a traditional third gender or other gender variant. You may be more familiar with the term LGBTQ that is supposed to be inclusive of all gender variations. As a child, Lozen chose to learn to become one of the bravest warriors and considered to be as strong as a man with extraordinary cunning, who joined with Geronimo to fight against their capture by the U.S. militia from incarceration on a reservation, also called a concentration camp. Lozen was not only a strategic warrior, they were also a prophet for their people and medicine person and herbalist who delivered babies. All of these abilities show a fierce and intelligent personality, but what other abilities did Lozen use? What intuitive gifts did Lozen have? Lozen used their intuition to learn the direction of the location of the enemies, which is why they were so skillful in knowing the whereabouts of their enemies, which was for strategy in protection and defense. Lozen used their intuitive ability to read, that is, perceive and understand their sensory response in a focused state. Lozen sang in the desert in prayer, getting into this focused state, using song and chant to change breathing patterns, heart rate, and respiration are tools used throughout many cultures for this purpose. Lozen knew by perceiving a tingling in their palms, which was the response that gave them the intuitive information. Many people have sensitive hands and receive intuitive responses through palms. People who use their hands in healing methods sometimes have sensitivities also through their hands related to their healing work. Some people can feel their hands heat up during times they are preparing to provide a session for another person, or even when they know a person is approaching them that needs healing. The hands are areas of heightened sensitivities and have all acupuncture points on them and are stimulated and as devices and sensitivity devices. As we discuss different kinds of intuition, we are more aware of how our sensitivities and abilities function. As a mystic and spiritual teacher, my experiences, studies, writings, and teachings are the result of traversing different states of heightened awareness, integration, going deeper, and healing. I've heard many people say they thought they were crazy, or their abilities were not like others, not enough, or they thought acknowledging their abilities would disrupt their lives and families. Discover how you can notice, understand, go deeper, support your own and other people's mystical and heightened experiences. We need people with insights and understanding, expressing their knowing for shifting the paradigm. Sign up now for the Full Circle program available at twi.education, Full Circle, under the Full Circle tab. The next video in this series focuses on particular people and women with remarkable mystical abilities who changed history. Thanks for listening from Dr. Susan Sophia James and Transformational Wisdom Institute at twi.education, and please subscribe.